Well, boys, second week of the Culture Couch. So, Waz and Jez, welcome, boys.
Easy.
All right, we're going to launch straight into it. We're going to spend about 10 minutes, nice and short and sharp today. First question is from Jeff. It's about relationships, boys. He said, how important, particularly in this COVID period, is maintaining relationships at work? So maybe, Waz, I'll throw to you quickly. Really good question, but what's the response to that one?
Yeah, look, I think ultimately that's the thing about work relationships. When you don't get the opportunity to meet with the individuals, I'm very interactive with staff. I hate sending stuff on emails or texts or whatever. I like to be going across to the desk and having a chat. I think the human interaction piece is a very critical part of leadership. And so, recently we've just sort of increased the volume of meetings that we're having, and we make sure that the cameras are turned on. We have walking meetings, so people are out in their backyard walking around and getting some fresh air, as well as sort of seeing each other's faces. So the check-in part is critical. It's also just critical to check in, from my perspective, on stuff outside of work. So just go straight into what's happening at work. What do we need to get from this person? How are they going? How are they coping? What types of things are they doing to keeping their sort of mental health up? And it's important to have those rhythms in place, and it's important to check in regularly with your team.
Probably to Emil and Nerf, I think what was touched on there, how probably connected we are at work, just with those little and often conversations. But away from this during COVID, it's more the Zoom calls. So you do have to be careful as a leader, not just to talk about profit and loss and how many sales you've made, and make sure you're checking in regularly. But it is a bit more challenging, isn't it, boys?
Yeah, 100%. And I've heard some really good stories, mate, of leaders, CEOs, doing things like sending cheese platters and bottles of wine around to their staff on a Friday. Those little baskets of jams and pates and all those sorts of things, like just sending little gifts to their to their staff, and even clients, to be honest. But just keeping that, little surprise, the act of kindness that we talk about, because it just keeps people need a bit of a lift, particularly in the Melbourne. Like, we're in Melbourne, as you know, we're in Melbourne, and so people are really craving that sort of act of spontaneity, because everything's sort of the same almost every day.
Jez, just on that, where's my bottle of wine and cheese platter, mate?
It's on the way. No, it's on the way. I put it in Australia Post, but they're a bit slow in there. We
might some performance and culture work, the Australia Post, then, maybe.
I think we might need to do some work with the Australia Post, to be honest.
Yeah.
Any little tips apart from that, Em?
Yeah, look, a couple of clients recently have jumped out and said, look, we need a lift, as Jez said. So it's been actually quite fun to design some just good old-fashioned connection type of workshops, sessions together, where people, just jumping online, and they've got to show their best talent in 90 seconds and answer some sort of silly questions, or just present some a sentimental ornament, like a picture. I've got a picture of my grandmother that I was very close with, that I sort of often bring up in the meetings to display what we're talking about. And they've been fantastic. It just humanises, and as you say, Jez, Melbourne people right now are really struggling. A fair few people are really just trying to figure out what's going on. So the little and often is very important, but also just some structured sessions where we just connect and really humanise and connect at that personal level is really important, I think.
Yeah, I think, and just to finish that off, guys, I think there's a couple of things that we need to be really conscious of. That's self-talk. So when you're not feeling great, and so I know we talk about having a multi on the footy, but it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It's just the fun of it. So I think having little things to look forward to, and watching yourself talk are really two important things as well.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, boys, the next one's from Mary. It's a little bit of a footy question, but it's got a business connotation. We hear a lot about leadership groups in sport. Do we put the same emphasis in business as we do in sport? Interesting question, because we do, I guess there's a lot of information about leadership groups, and we work with a lot of executive teams, which are the leadership groups. So Murph, I'll throw that question over to you first.
Yeah, 100%. And if you get an aligned leadership team where everybody feels safe to speak up and have their say, where people aren't working in silos, so they've taken an enterprise perspective, it drives the performance of the organisation. There's no doubt about it. Where you get leadership teams where they're not congruent with the culture code, they don't really say what they think, they're working in silos, they're not sharing information, they're protective of their area, then it certainly inhibits the performance of the organisation. So it's absolutely vital that we have a really strong, connected leadership team that feels safe to say what they really think and takes an enterprise perspective of the organisation, not just a protective area of my division or my my group, if you like.
I'll leave you last, Wise, because I want to ask Em, but I'll ask you a specific question, Wise. But do you want to pick up on Murph's comment there?
Yeah. I mean, the short answer to it is I think the corporate sector misunderstands it terribly, to be honest. There's a number of occasions the last couple of years where our work has really helped just that leadership team understand they are the team. You know, I think even some workshops we've done together, Ruzi, we've actually just asked them, are you a team? And they sort of look around at each other and they're looking for a response from someone else to answer, which clearly tells us that they're not. So a lot of our journey with teams is actually helping that leadership team realise that if they work in harmony, they actually, as Jay says, they lift the rest of the organisation organically. And conversely, if they're not in harmony, it's just a fraction, and that creates a lot of the breakdown. So yeah, it's a really missed opportunity and something that I definitely enjoy doing with teams because it has a massive impact and quite quickly as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had this very conversation yesterday, Murph and I, with a leadership group. Do you see yourself as a team? Well, I was going to throw to you because by your own admission, you were very much of a sort of top-down type CEO. But now you've really embraced that leadership team. Tell us the best part of that transition.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest learnings for me specifically is that sort of American style org chart where, you have a leader, basically overseeing everything and dictating what the team needs to do. I think you probably have taught me more about this than anyone, Ruzi, in the fact that, when you went to Sydney, you sort of let the leadership group manage themselves or manage the team around them, and you were there to support them in that particular role. And that's the way I've looked at it now. Like, as a leader, if you're going into meetings and solving problems and giving the outcomes of what the business needs to do, you're not doing a good enough job. Your role is there to support the others through the decision making, and then you ultimately get more time back to actually do the things that are better for the business and drive the business forward. So that's a huge learning for me. I think that sort of flat org structure is empowers people in specific parts of the business to actually do their job successfully and not always come to you for answers or not be scared to make decisions. And that's that's the key to modern org structure and modern leadership.
Yeah, good boy. So just in summary, relationships incredibly important, little and often conversations, reach out as much as you can, particularly in this time, and don't be an executive team by name only.
Yeah.
Don't be a leadership only. See yourself as a team, lean on each other, particularly again in tough times. Put it together. Don't have to know all the answers. That's why you put exec teams and leadership teams together. Great takeaways, boys. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you next week on the Culture Couch.
So guys, go Canada.